Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. Yeah, I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. We're bringing you podcast stuff. That's the end of the intro. Done. No. So this is our witchy podcast. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to 2023. This is the first episode in 2023.
It sure is.
So happy New Year. If you're in Northern California, batten down your hatches, bro, because we got a doozy coming. We're fingers crossing that power stays on all the way through this recording. It should, but we'll see.
But whether we have power 24 hours from when we're recording this is a whole
See, the worst part is
story.
the camera's on battery, but the microphone right now is not on battery because I decided to plug it into the wall instead of getting one of my batteries out, and the light is also not on battery. So we'll see what happens. Either way, if you're listening to this on your podcast network of choice, please leave us a review and check out all of our other episodes. This is episode 49.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of episodes for you to check out. And if you're watching this on YouTube and looking at our silly faces, hey, what's going on with this face? And don't forget to leave us a like and comment below if you have any questions or corrections if we say a word wrong, because, I'm going to lean into saying a word wrong with bold, indifferent confidence.
You're going to roll those R's really hard.
I'm not going to roll the R's hard, but listen, I'm going to say it just full confidence every single time, just because that's what we got to do. That's how we learn. And if I say it wrong, correct me. That's how people learn. And that's what we're about here, is like sharing and learning and not being an ass. So check that shit at the door. And subscribe to the channel and ring the bell or whatever. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore, to be honest. But, Anyway, let's get right into it. Episode 49, guys, ballin' on a budget.
Magic on a budget.
It's the same thing.
I suppose.
You could be a magic baller.
Thrifty witchy. A
wizard shock collar.
That doesn't even make sense.
Oh, she doesn't understand what I'm doing. Okay. Never mind!
A
spile could be, right, like a ritualistic blade could be a 20-inch blade.
It could be, yes, especially if you're
using... And you could put a bunch of runes on your Impala.
Especially if you're using dude inches, which are famously larger or
That's
smaller
true.
than lady
she
inches.
Still doesn't know what we're talking about.
No, I don't.
4 whole lines from a song.
I'm
That's okay.
so
it's
bad.
Okay. It's okay. She's real bad at these, I guess.
With movie quotes and with like music lyrics, I never get them. My brain is just like, what's this? And then it floats away. So when people do like a reference, I'm just like, yeah, I don't even like some references I get, right? But like they are few.
Ooh, no. See, I am made of about 90% references. Yeah. Certainly, I'm a byproduct of television and movies and the internet from the 90s and 2000s. So, that's most of the way that I talk. Anywho, magic on a budget, buy cheap stuff. End of episode. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Go away now.
No.
She's got like a whole bunch of details.
So we're gonna start the new year off right and give you like a list of things, basically.
Let's go into 2023 and save a little bit of cheddar because it is
expensive out there.
Nightmare out there right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And a lot of people are, looking to either start something new in their craft, start new in the craft, or just like get some new stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So like this is a great time to do it. Like new year, new me.
Yeah.
2020
setting goals and doing gym memberships and all that other stuff that people do at the beginning of the new year. Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I was definitely a part of that for a long time, and now I'm just like, what is it, January, I guess? Rock and roll.
I'm generally the notebook / planner buyer.
Yeah.
And I just...
See, I don't even have to buy a notebook no more because I have a bunch of blank ones. Because I'm like, I'm going to start journaling, and then I open up a journal, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do this. What are you writing this? Like, what happened today? I remember that. Why do I need to write that shit down? And then I close that and I put it on my shelf, and then I forget I had that for like a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. I still have journals like 10 pages filled from when I was in high school. I'm just like, filled 10 pages, gave up immediately.
I mean, 10 pages is a lot. I usually
That's
get
10
like,
days, bro. That's not even
usually
very
get
far.
like 3 in, and then I'm like, ooh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, most of the time it's my handwriting. Also, if you're new to us, generally the way these go is that Julie here did a bunch of research and is prepared like an adult, and I am none of those things. So, I'm just here for color commentary. I have no clue what we're going to talk about. Most of the time, I'm setting up the camera, still asking her, like, what are we talking about today? What's going on right now? I just edit this stuff. So
this is definitely one of those days.
And have a vast and uncontrolled knowledge of a great many subjects.
Yeah. So the only thing that, because
you.
like normally when we're doing stuff, there's like some interesting research stuff that I talk to him about, or like spells that we write together.
Sometimes she'll give me a tidbit. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes she gives me a tidbit and then I forget about it. And sometimes she gives me a tidbit. It doesn't make it in the podcast. I don't know why she gave that information to me. It's just like free new shit. Hey, here's a free sample of some shit we don't sell. It's like Nightmare Costco if you got a Costco around you.
Yeah. But this time, all you knew was the title. So that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
For
Who
me,
knows?
mostly.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Magic on a budget.
Yeah. So you always see these memes or these recommendations like, oh, if you don't have it or if you're broke, rosemary and clear quartz substitute for anything. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know about rosemary, but clear quartz, certainly I've heard that quartz, essentially infinity rock.
Yes, but also no. See, the thing about I don't really understand where that
just nail polish up a quartz. All of a sudden, you got amethyst.
From.
That's how that works.
That's not. I mean, don't do that. I can't say it's not going to work because it might actually work.
Yeah, you just paint a rock, bro.
Just don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that.
Take a yard rock, just paint it whatever color you need your rock to be. Bam, magic rock.
Actually, that does work, and we're going to talk about that later.
Look at this. I'm reading ahead, and I don't even know how to read.
Yeah.
Bing, bang.
That's right. So I don't really know where this idea about rosemary and clear quartz being like the everything started, but it's a relatively like new.
I've definitely never heard rosemary
within like
before.
the last 5 to 10 years. This is like a super new recommendation.
I've always heard that quartz works for everything.
Well, clear quartz, the thing about it is with correspondences, rosemary and quartz have a lot of associations with them, and clear quartz in particular really kind of does work in just about any sort of spell working because clear quartz works as an enhancer. So that's not a substitute though, right? And rosemary has a lot of different correspondences for things that it goes with, but it doesn't go for like everything. I mean, if you know the correspondences for it, you can build that into your spell however you want.
Sure.
So
I think
like
rosemary might just be because rosemary goes good in everything as a food dish, and some kitchen witches were just like, well, just tell everybody rosemary is good for everything because it's good with everything.
Yeah, but what happens if you don't have any rosemary or clear quartz?
Well, clear quartz, that's everywhere. I don't know. Maybe this is just a Northern California thing, but like I feel like clear quartz is like going to your front or backyard for like 5 minutes and you're gonna find some clear quartz. But maybe that's just a hear us thing. And rosemary. Who doesn't have rosemary in some form?
We can't grow it, so we have to buy it.
Yeah, but we always have rosemary.
Yes, but if we were ancient people, we couldn't just place an order from Amazon or like go down to the store for supplies. We wouldn't have rosemary.
All ancient people grew was rosemary. Everything was rosemary. Rosemary soup, rosemary stew. It grew everywhere across the land. It even grew in the oceans so the merfolk could use it. Everything rosemary, right?
Is that how that works? If you want to go with
rosemary only came from one place. Actually, like everything did.
The herb that I am aware of, and I could be totally wrong here because I am not like a botanist.
Sure.
That I have seen pop up in like almost every like land that I have looked at with this stuff is sage.
Well, I
so
think
like sage kind of grows everywhere, or salvia, which is like a big broad family of plants.
I was gonna say I think sage grows everywhere because like, oh, what do you got? Like a flavorful leaf, and they're like, yeah, this is our flavorful leaf, and they're like, different kind of sage. Right? Yeah. I think sage is sort of like the like apple thing. Yes. Where like a bunch of shit was called apples that wasn't apples, but we're just going to call them apples kind of a thing. Yeah. I think it's just like we just called like a bunch of shit sage, and now the sage family's sort of like a huge mutant family full of nonsense.
Yes.
You know, because like we grow pineapple sage here, and if you only have ever had regular sage, if I gave you a pineapple sage leaf and didn't tell you what it was, you would not label it as a sage. Like at all. 0% sage, right? I tell you that, you're going to be like, yeah, it's like a little sagey, but it's like mostly pineapple-y.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? So I think that sage was just like, what is this? Like a big leaf that tastes good? Sage. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's just like an evolution of language thing over anything else.
Well, sage does have like a pretty large like plant genus to draw from because it's part of the salvia family, which
Sure.
which also includes the type of plant which is used for like hallucinogenics. But salvia is also a plant, whether or not it is hallucinogenic or like tasty for sage,
Yeah.
is great for butterflies.
Pretty certain I remember that being bad for
You
you.
see
Like,
that a lot
I was in
in,
high school when that was like a thing,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty certain don't
you
do
see
that.
it a lot in a lot of landscaping stuff out here in California. We
Oh
see
yeah,
it a
yeah.
lot.
It's like a drought resistant butterfly attractor. It makes like pretty flowers and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But anyway, the point is that ancient people couldn't place an order or
Sure.
just necessarily go to the store. They had to barter or trade or forage or
They didn't
upcycle.
have Babylazon?
No. Or craft their own things available to them.
Yeah.
And like that stuff wasn't always available, especially because of like seasonality or, you know, like a level of trade that was just like, you know, really hard to get. Like if you lived in the Middle Ages, like you had to be incredibly wealthy to get something like cinnamon, for instance.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and that's like one of those really common ones. And if you lived like, you know, somewhere where rosemary didn't grow, like in the far north in Europe or in like Siberia, you wouldn't have rosemary, so you can't really use those. So, you know, people just sort of used what was available to them in their place, and
Sure.
that's one of the things that's interesting about like modern, like being a modern witch or a modern.
Oh, we got
modern
access to so
pagan.
much stuff,
We have
bro.
access to so many things, and it's
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
cool. But also,
Be
it
careful
makes
when
things
you're looking up
unnecessarily
rocks
complimented.
online. Let me tell you how many times I've been like, there's a pretty rock. Maybe I tumble this rock. We have a rock tumbler. Literally because I want to tumble rocks. Every time I've tried to be like, I'm going to tumble all these rocks. I'm going to do something with it. Nope. I just got a big, like a half-gallon mason jar sitting on our shelves, like literally right behind the camera, that's just full of tumbled rocks.
Yeah.
With no plans in sight. None. They're
You've
just pretty
you've made
rocks.
a couple of them into like necklaces.
I've made a few into necklaces. I've made a few into candles, like, you know, like magically charged candles, what with like rock, like homemade, like home tumbled rocks and shit
Yeah.
in. But
I think we have those in our Etsy shop too. I think those have home tumbled amethyst.
we might still have a few
Yeah.
of those in the Etsy shop, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just like tumbling rocks or whatever. But like in looking at rocks, you got a lot of people that are just like nail polishing up rocks or whatever.
Well,
you know,
yeah.
using some sort of science fiction to like make the rocks a color. So you're like, this is a really pretty rock, and then you read the reviews and everybody's just like, it's granite on the inside. Don't believe the lies.
Well, not only that, a
You
lot
know?
of rocks are heat treated to get like better colors. Like
Yeah.
amethyst and fluorite
Yeah.
are like amethyst, citron, and fluorite are like particularly like rampant with that.
Yeah.
Like you heat treat amethyst to make it like a super bright purple.
Yeah.
And because that's the most desirable color for people to buy.
That also means it fades faster in the sun and it'll cleave easier in the tumbling process. So if you're using like especially bright amethyst or amethyst that you do know is heat treated and you're tumbling it, like I use less stones and more plastic buffer. I have these like little plastic recyclable buffer beads that I just like reuse. In fact, I've never not reused them. We bought like a 1 pound bag. I have the same handful in my rock tumbler a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Because they don't go bad. They're just plastic. But they like buffer the fall of the rocks tumbling.
Yeah.
And that helps prevent like softer or like thermally shocked rocks from cleaving into tiny ass bits.
Yeah.
So a little secret if you're into rock tumbling and you use a rock tumbler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to do a lot of digging to learn how to not ruin rocks, which you did. I didn't think you'd be able to do, but there you go. You know.
So we have kind of like two main categories of things that we're really going to be talking about today, other than like the spells and the correspondences and stuff.
Sure.
And one of those is like general thrifty practices that you can embrace, and then another one is low cost incorporations into your practice. Mm-hmm. So as far as principles go,
Decent
there's
steals.
a lot of places you can take this. So and even for the incorporations, like there's a lot of ideas that you can have. These are just the ideas that I came up with. So I don't have any particular sources for these to put into the show notes or anything like that.
This is just like stuff
This
that
is
we've
just, like,
experienced
yeah.
and practiced, and stuff that like we've seen other people like talk about and stuff. Because we talk about this like almost constantly.
Yeah, and we may have
Right?
forgotten. I may have forgotten something completely obvious.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, and if you have a cost-saving, like a witchy cost-saving practice or whatever, leave it in the comments below. Share it with the community so we all know how to like pinch pennies with regard to access to increasingly greater magics.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first principle to embrace is wildcrafting. And this can be done for people who live out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and also for people who live in like suburbia and also in like very urban settings in a city.
Sure, totally.
Wildcrafting does not mean you need to be in the wilderness to craft.
Yeah, it's just stuff you find.
It's just stuff that you're finding around.
If you're going to find and take stuff, make sure that it's okay for you to do that. Don't take shit from other people's property. Don't take shit from like state and federal land.
And
right?
definitely don't take things that are illegal.
Stuff from the beaches. My God, man! Like out here in California, we've essentially like eroded a couple of glass beaches.
Yeah.
From people taking stuff and shit like that. So like, make sure that you're doing it on
not
the up and up.
but like people in general.
Oh, yeah, not us
the
taking
royal
stuff.
we.
Yeah. Oh, my God, I haven't been to a glass beach in so long, too.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just one of those things where, like, people have taken so much glass from some of the glass beaches out here that they're, like, almost essentially gone.
Yeah.
Now, which is, like, sad because glass beach is beautiful.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, like, be conscientious. Conscientious? Yeah.
Yes.
About, like, what you're grabbing and how you're grabbing it. That sort of a thing. And if you are taking, like, plants and stuff, make sure you, one, know what you're actually doing so you're not getting yourself sick. And two, you're, like, allowed to remove that plant. And if you are going to remove it, like, maybe do something nice.
Well, and also
for
three, there are...
Replant something.
There are some sort of, like, general guidelines that, like, for instance, herbalists use when they're taking plants for wildcraft. So you want to, if you are taking plant matter, you want to make sure that you're, one, leaving enough so that there's something behind for people.
Yeah, oh yeah, don't like dig up the whole bush.
Yeah,
bro.
but also enough so that whatever plant it is can replicate again in the future. So if you're like, if you know of like a really cool like wild rose bush or something, like don't take all of the rose hips. Don't take all the roses.
Yeah.
Like leave some.
Yeah,
and
if you're taking fiddles from a fiddlehead fern, don't take like all the fiddles. Just take like a few fiddles or whatever.
And if you're curious about that, really the best thing to do is to Google herbalism wild crafting principles, and there are some like fairly specific ideas for like what that looks like in case you're not familiar with the plants.
Yeah.
So wild crafting, definitely there. You can find herbs, you can find rocks, you can find trees, you can find like
anything.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I follow
Flowers,
a guy on TikTok
dirt.
who gathers moss for, he has like a couple of sheds that are like moss covered roofs. And they're like, he takes like big pieces of moss from his property. But he always like leaves enough moss behind that it can grow back within a year or two, like to cover the same volume that he's taking. And he just like patchworks it together on his roof. Yeah. So that way, he's not having to like demolish the moss in a specific area or whatever.
Yeah, generally moss that's fallen from a tree during a storm is also like perfectly fine.
Oh, sure, yeah. If you're gonna get like,
if you live in a more like suburban or urban setting, like there are many times that like plants that you would be particularly interested in are used as landscaping, and that's a great one.
I have a very specific story of wanting weeping willow for a craft that I was doing, and there were some weeping willow trees in like a nearby park, and I waited like 6 months for winter to come after I had like decided exactly what I wanted to do. I waited like 6 months for winter to come, and the first big storm that hit the town or the city, I was just like, the storm's happening. I'm gonna wait until morning. I went out at like super early in the morning after the storm and just drove into the like parking lot that was surrounded by these willow trees, and I was able to pick up a big branch just off the ground.
Yeah.
As like deadfall off the tree. And that's what I used to craft my first rune set. Was deadfall or storm fallen willow.
Yeah, and that's something that's definitely available in an urban as well as a suburban setting.
Totally,
like,
totally.
A lot of landscaping, particularly at like stores and stuff. Like
around
you can
parking areas is like primo deadfall.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
can
saying?
find like lilies and salvia, like sages, and a variety of like colored blooms in like pretty much any landscaped like shopping center in like all of California from what I've seen.
Totally. Yeah.
So, there's a ton of stuff there. There's also like little odds and ends that you'll like find on the street. Maybe somebody dropped a particularly nice colored bottle cap or a variety of things. I do not recommend digging through the trash though. Lots of dangerous things in the trash.
Don't do that. But the people drop stuff and plants drop stuff. I'm very pro deadfall. I would rather not like cut something off a tree or a bush or something. So I just wait until like if I know what I want, I'll just keep an eye out for it as deadfall, and inevitably you're gonna find it within like a couple of months. 6 months dead max. It's just the nature of like nature.
Yeah. Also like landscaping rocks too.
Yeah. Totally.
So that's certainly something. Another thing that you can do besides wildcrafting is upcycling. So if you already have something that you think is particularly like, no, I don't really have anything to do with this, but it's of some sort of like mystical nature, or could be used for something like maybe it's a jar or it's like an old t-shirt that has like a rainbow color or something along those lines. A lot of stuff can be upcycled. In fact, a lot of stuff on our altars are upcycled. We have a lot of like weird upcycled things that we've had around the house and then just sort of make it onto our altar for doing stuff.
If you have like flowers, like if you're a flower person and you got like a bouquet or what have you, you can always like wait until that bouquet is like starting to like wilt and age a little bit, and then just like hang a couple of those roses upside down, let them dry out. Hey, now you've got rose petals. Whether you're going for like the correspondences of rose specifically, or you're just going with the correspondences of the colors of that petal. You know? Or
like a deity that particularly likes roses. Like, you've got a lot of options there with upcycling. A lot of holiday things can be upcycled. So you can upcycle a lot of, like, Christmas stuff. Like, they have those, like, ornament balls that can be upcycled, and a variety of other, like, Christmas decor, like, shiny, pretty, like, things. As well as, like, definitely Halloween stuff. So much Halloween stuff. But really, any holiday has a bunch of things that you can take and upcycle. Like, one thing that's really cool that you can kind of do with upcycling is Lunar New Year is coming up, and one of the customs for Lunar New Year, and we talk a little bit more about this in Imbolc 102, is like giving away money in like little red envelopes. And because those are like money envelopes and they signify luck, you can always give those out, but you can also keep one for yourself and kind of turn it into like a little spell jar. But it's like a little packet. Instead of having like a big like money bowl on your altar, you can have it be like a little money envelope.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. There's also smart splurging. So the thing that's tough about any you spend less money kind of tips is it's all like, don't buy that latte or that avocado toast.
Oh my
and that is absolutely not a thing that we're going to tell you.
I don't know about outside of California, but in here, every time I hear somebody just like, well, you guys spending all this money on avocados. And I'm like, bro, avocados are cheap as dirt out here. And I know that that's just like a flex because we live in California and we produce a shitload of avocados. So we get them cheap here. But it's like, B, if I want fucking avo toast, I'm going to cut somewhere else. Right? Like just because some rich ass hat, it like doesn't eat. He doesn't drink soda to save money on soda. Well, if you want soda, and that's your thing, drink soda and cut somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like, not everybody needs to follow the, like, I rather loathe the, like, this rich guy does this thing. So if you want to be rich, you should do the same thing. That's just correlation don't equal causation, my guys. This is bad logic. It's bad
There's
logic from
also
stem to
a lot of like socioeconomic and income inequality kind of things tied into that, and that is for a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Because
I got an hour bit just on
of
bootstraps. Let me tell you how wrong that shit is.
He does. So anyway, smart splurging, right? So it's just like that basically. Like save up for something or add a category in your household budget or personal budget for your magic stuff. This is a great way to make sure that you've always got the money for the magical stuff that you want to do.
Yeah.
Because practicing magic, for the most part, is going to cost you money. Now, there are different methods of magic and different types of magic and different ways to do your magic that could be less expensive or literally not use anything, like chaos magic, which P.S. we're going to talk about later this year in a deep dive. Yep. But this is a great way to make sure that you've always got that stuff. You want to have a fancy book, or you want to get nice candles, or whatever it is. So have that in your budget, but also choose one thing that you love to splurge on and go low cost on everything else. So maybe your deal is like bath salts or like a fancy candle. These are definitely my deals. So like that's the thing that I splurge on, and then I go low cost on everything else. Incense, I get that dirt cheap at the Asia Mart. We talking about rocks? I use only the ones that we've tumbled. Like I generally do not buy rocks.
Yeah.
Although I do like rocks.
Unless we're traveling, because if we travel literally anywhere at all, even the smallest distance, and they have a bits and bobs, odds and ends magical adjacent shop full of rocks and shit, man, every time I go in there I gotta buy a rock. I'm a crow. I'm a raven. Every time I'm just like, I don't know, look at this fucking shiny rock. Do I have 12 of these at home? Yes. Do I care? Not even a little bit. I'm buying this rock.
Yeah.
Most of the time Julie's like, you get one rock, and I'm just like, I'm an adult, I can get more than one rock. And of course the person behind the counter, I imagine, is just like, oh, look at this lady bringing this idiot in. Why is he arguing about rocks? You know? But
well, no, we each choose one for ourselves, and then we get one general rock.
Team rock. Yeah,
House
one team rock.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and like for us, like we go through an inordinate number of candles because we have candles going on all the time. So to save money, I just started making my own candles.
Yeah.
It's way cheaper.
Absolutely.
So I just make my own candles. I have all of the stuff to do like dip candles, to do pour candles like in a shape. I can do like rolled beeswax candles. Like I've got all of the tech.
Yeah.
I've got like 5 different kinds of wick. We collect all of our like knobs, like wax knobs.
We have a whole drawer.
We have a whole drawer just of like
unhinged.
bits. It's a lot of wax.
It's a lot.
But like once or twice a year, I'll do the like, all right, well, it's time for us to stock up on just like dumb like tube candles or whatever. And so I will like melt all these candles down and then pour the wax through a fine sieve to remove the bits of wick or the little metal bottoms for the wicks or
whatever weird debris ends up
rocks,
in it. Yeah.
Clumps of glitter.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Herbs, if we like decided to roll a candle in herbs or what have you. And I'll like filter all that stuff out and then just like pour like a bunch of candles. I'll spend like 2 days making candles.
Yeah.
And then we've got enough candles to last like a year. And we'll just wait until they all get real low and then we'll just do it again. You know? So, yeah, there's a lot of ways to save money, but, like, if your thing is candles, splurge on candles. If your thing is tarot decks, like, wait until you can afford it, but then, like if you have it budgeted to every, you know, once or twice, 3 times, 4 times a year, go out and buy a new tarot deck, like, go out and buy a new tarot deck. But, like, you know, budget for it. Be like conscientious about it.
Yeah, but also allow yourself space and allow yourself grace.
Yeah.
Because while your thing may be fancy candles, if you go and you see this like absolutely perfect like statuette for your altar or this like beautiful perfect crystal, like allow yourself to get that in lieu of one of your fancy things.
Oh, sure,
or
totally.
that's what your budget is for. So smart splurging. Definitely a thing, because when you cut yourself too low and you don't have anything that you really love to splurge on, it creates this like scarcity mindset, which causes you to want to buy more later, right? So it's like, I'm super broke, we don't have any money until payday, we can't buy anything. But then when payday comes, you've been denying yourself and depriving yourself so much that you're like, oh my God, we're gonna go out and we're gonna get this breakfast and then we're gonna have lunch and then we're gonna pick up dinner on our way home and we're gonna pick up a bunch of stuff. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to create a scarcity mindset. And this is coming both from like practical and personal experience, as well as I have previously worked with people about how to get their finances budgeted to get them onto like a better financial track. track. Also, no, I do not do that anymore. I'm happy to give tips, but I don't do that
Like actual
anymore.
budget stuff,
Yeah. So smart splurging, definitely a great thing. Also, if you are smart splurging or even not, try to buy from local small businesses and farmers markets. Going local is not only a great way to spend your money, but is also a great way to find things less expensive than you may find them somewhere else. So, like, for instance, we live in an area where there are multiple places where you can get obsidian. Mm-hmm. And obsidian is not necessarily prevalent everywhere, but it's particularly inexpensive where we live if we're buying it from local sources. But if we're buying it from a large source, we're now paying more money for it. So always look to local, always look to small when you can. Help support people in your community because it keeps that money local and it helps everybody round there. Also, you have a chance to get to know people, getting special deals.
And it ties your practice back to the local land. Like, if you eat a bunch of vegetables and you're like you have a local CSA box, then get a local CSA box and you can use those herbs for like magical practices and stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also, from an ecological perspective, be careful about dollar and discount stores. They do have a lot of really great things in them. And I am definitely not going to tell you not to shop there, but just be careful about it. Yeah. Because discount and dollar stores and buying things in bulk on like Wish or AliExpress or any of those kind of things.
Heck, even Amazon.
Yeah. There's a lot of plastic associated with it, and microplastics are definitely becoming a larger problem. But also a lot of these companies may not have great business practices, and if that's something that is an important feature to you, then that really only proves going small and local even more. But in addition to that, there are some things that are definitely not recommended to buy from discount stores because of the materials that they are made from. And that's not just plastics. Like, for instance, there are a lot of discount stores that have been found to have large amounts of lead in their makeup. There are a couple of store brands that you commonly see at like a shopping mall, as well as some like larger name discount stores and off brands that have lead levels in their makeup. And sometimes that's even like geared towards children. That is absolutely like, it's not toxic in the short run, but if it's continually used in the long run, it creates really big long-term problems. So it's definitely something to be careful about with these, with doing all these shopping things, because you never know what you're going to get. So the best choice here is if you're planning on doing a bunch of like buying stuff, do your homework on it, because otherwise you might regret it. Now the next...
Also, on the thing that you're buying might be not as good as the thing that you want it to be. Oh, are you going to take my seat, Hella? Is that how this is going to work? Hella, no,
yeah,
we're
look
not
at
friends.
This little dog.
Hella,
she
Hella,
took your seat.
Hella, we're not friends.
You went
have
away.
To go.
She's my new co-host now.
Hella, you have to go. Stop being
Hella,
a
come
dog.
on, honey.
Stop being
come
a
on,
dog.
Come on,
Stop being a dog. There you go. Okay, that's a dog. Dog
so
interruption.
much
Dog interruption.
for a new co-host.
Like I was saying earlier about the like quartz that are miscolored and stuff like that. You can chemically, it's called chemical deposition. You can like how you make glasses with like a UV filter on it. It's a chemical deposition. You can chemically deposit color onto stone, which will make it like essentially you wouldn't be able to tell that stone isn't the color that it is.
Yeah.
But like. And like this is just one of those things that like I've had to deal with, like kind of digging through the weeds on a little bit. Whereas like sometimes you're buying a thing and it's like, oh, it's this rock, but in fact it's a different stone that just has a chemical deposition on it to shift its color in the direction that they're trying to convince you that that's what kind of stone it is.
Or it's been used.
Or you're buying beeswax
dye.
that isn't beeswax. Another thing, for our Etsy shop, we buy like incredibly local business beeswax, like nearby business sort of beeswax for the beeswax in our shop, as well as for the beeswax in like my candles and stuff like that. And it's because there is a problem with some places making beeswax candles that only have a small fraction of beeswax, or no beeswax, Jesus, or no beeswax, and then like a gentle honey scent added after the fact. And then if you're trying to use like beeswax for like a craft, think about the way that I look at it is like I think of magic as food. Like you should look at the magical items that you're using with the same scrutiny as you would the food that you're putting in your face, right? Because like you don't want to eat something that looks pretty but is in fact one of them transforming cheeseburgers from the 80s from McDonald's. It's a fun toy, but it's not food.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And again,
so like that's just
we're not
one of
telling
those
you
things.
don't shop at places. We're not telling you what to do.
Dude, I definitely have gotten some stuff from the bloody Dollar General or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, you know, try and work on making informed decisions. It's certainly going to prevent you from having to spend bonus money on shit you didn't you could have got only one time.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then the last one in this category of like general sort of practices, and this is something that I would really love to do, is to start a collective where you can share things with other witchy folk. So like if you have a bunch of like an item, or maybe you had like a bumper crop of yarrow this year, or we live in an area where something is plentiful. Like we live in an area where serpentine jade, which is used for visualization and cleansing and abundance, where redwood for protection and grounding and strengthening bonds, and bladderwrack, which is a particular type of seaweed, so that's for like protection, ocean magic, and money. Like we live in a place where those are absolutely abundant.
Oh yeah, like everywhere.
I mean, there's a bunch of other things that are abundant here too, but specifically those. But like maybe you don't live in an area where those are abundant, but we do. Excuse me. Or maybe you've really been wanting like orris root for a self-love spell.
Bay is a great example.
And you can't find it.
Bro, we never have to buy Bay ever again, not even bloody once. We could not consume enough Bay personally to affect any of the multiple number of Bay trees we have on our property.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like if we have a grand access to Bay and somebody else has grand access to something else.
Yeah.
Right? A little trading, a little whatever. I mean, honestly, what I would love to get to, and I know people have done it, and I know there's a way to do it, and one day I will set it up, and we will figure out the bloody details. But, like, those, like, local book libraries?
Yeah.
I would love to do something like that for trading books, like, within our community.
Yeah.
With regard to, like, magical books. I have, like, a bunch of magical books. Heck, sometimes I accidentally have 2 or 3 of a magical book.
Yeah.
Because I forget things. But like, that's a great example of, like, oh, have you, like, if you haven't read this, well, here, I'll just, like, mail it to you, read it, and then just, like, mail it back.
Yeah,
or whatever.
but, I mean, the same thing works with, like, stones and herbs and all of those other kind of magical things. And I would absolutely love to go to a place where we have the ability to, like, do a collective like that, where it's just, it's local or it's by mail. Like, it only costs a little bit of money to send something first class mail, and it might be considerably less than buying it yourself.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So that is another cool thing that can be done. I'm sure there are witchy collectives out there, but I did not find any specifically when I was looking for it.
I would imagine that if you live in an area where there are enough people of a similar mindset to you, wherein you can create a quote-unquote coven, for a lack of better words, I would imagine within that coven, sharing is caring with regard to, like, access to supplies and things like that. Having not been a part of one of those, I don't know. But I've also, like I've worked at a business where, like, every fall, people are just bringing in, like, grocery bags and, like, milk crates full of vegetables. And it's like, oh, I grew a bunch of tomatoes this year, so I'm just going to bring all my tomatoes in. Like, I remember one year, Dad and I had spaghetti squash coming out the bloody wazoo because our spaghetti squash plant tried to take over our entire house. And, so, like, I just brought a bunch of them to work, and I got to, effectively trade spaghetti squash for, like, giant zucchinis and, like, fresh tomatoes and, like, things like that. So, like, even if it's not necessarily magical, like, you can still do that sort of, like, like local or like social group trading of like goods and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's good. That is going to save money because, you know, even just within like my family, the stuff that we can grow here at my house is so different than the stuff that my dad can grow at his house or my sister can grow at her house, that like we always talk in the spring, like, oh, we're gonna grow this and you're gonna grow this and you're gonna grow this or whatever, so that way we're not double dipping when we don't need to, but also so that way, like, if somebody needs something, we can, you know, oh, well, I'll give you this and you bring me this, or like if like I can, you know, I'm good at like brewing beer and mead and stuff like that, and you know, we've got other people in the family who can make like other stuff, you know, like tinctures and extracts and shit like that.
Yeah.
So like that community sort of nature to things is incredibly beneficial.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on to low cost incorporations for your practice.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk about a few categories of things. So first up is
I know what you mean by
crystals.
incorporate, but like every time I hear that word, I'm just like, what are we talking about? Businesses here?
No,
You're talking about crystal businesses?
Yeah, crystal business.
Yeah. Crystal business.
We're talking
it's
about
like,
we're talking
is
about
that an MLM? Crystal
no, we're talking about
business?
the crystal method.
No, we're not.
I made a reference.
It's not a great reference. I'll allow it.
It was the only one I had for that moment. So crystals. Instead of like buying crystals, unless that's like obviously your thing,
Yeah.
if it is, definitely disregard this or use this in
Or kind of regard it. Gently regard it.
Yeah, gently regard it. Use rocks that you found locally. Use color magic correspondences or spend time with the rocks that you found to get a better understanding of their energy. Or as John said, go ahead and get a rock, paint it a color you want.
Yeah. Yeah. It don't even have to be a fancy rock to begin with. If it's just like a dope shape, you can paint it like just like acrylic paint, nail polish. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. You can just go to the craft store, get that like Roy G. Biv bloody craft paint set, and then just like paint whatever rock you want. Like a very common thing that I see like kind of all over, and so much so that it's not even like a magical practice thing, is like when you have like, you know, everybody got like rocks in their yard, like just like big, hey, here's a bunch of rocks around like the base of a tree or some bullshit, right? Like you could just paint those a pretty color.
Yeah.
Right? That's around here, that is really common.
It's
and
very
not
common.
even like a magical
Yeah.
thing. It's just people are like, I want these rocks purple. Psh, spray paint or brush paint on purple, drawing symbols or circles or whatever on it. You can also, again, if you have access to this stuff or it's something else that you're doing, I have some rocks that are like nice that I essentially just like melt wax onto.
Oh, yeah.
And because the wax is colored, you know, I'll use a purple candle or a black candle or a pink candle or a red candle or whatever the heck.
And allows you to like stick stuff in it. While
Yeah,
the
and it
wax
lets
is
you
still
stick
warm.
like the littler rocks because they're cheaper into the wax while it's warm, and then you have like a pretty like pile of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what to call that. Witch's candle adjacent idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like if like whenever I'm vibing that it's time to change, you could just use like a heat gun. You know, and like a pair of like safety gloves. Like, be safe. You're working with hot shit for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Don't put rocks in fire. I cannot stress this enough. Rocks will sometimes explode in fire. So don't put rocks in fire. But like a heat gun is a great way to clear wax off a rock. Or frankly, you could just scrape it off. I use a flathead screwdriver for that. Just like the old worn out flathead screwdriver in my toolkit. I just use that to scrape wax off of stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like be safe with it. But that's a great way to essentially constantly repaint your rock, in quotes, without like having to like use some sort of like a paint remover or do anything like that. You're just like, you know, like think of it like stickers from the DMV on your car.
Yeah.
Right? You just layer up different colors of wax while you're working on it, and then at some point in time, it's concerningly thick, so you just like scrape all that off, start with new colors of wax.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I've had the same flat rock for like years.
Yeah.
It was just like a flat rock that I found one day, and it's like this big. It was like, you know, good size, 4 inches or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, perfect. That's my new putting candles and rocks on it rock.
Yeah.
You know? Heck, there's even like the stem of a pumpkin that like perfectly preserved on a pumpkin. We had like, it's the end of the season, we're just gonna like put that shit in the chicken coop, and then like
No, that is the gift from the Fae.
That one we found just
we talk about
out
this
there, bro.
all the time. That was a gift from the Fae, and every time you forget. Yeah. But I remember. They were thanking you for something.
Probably leaving pumpkins out. Because we upcycle all of our pumpkins. The food.
Now you can also look up correspondences for rocks and also like herbs that you already have. So like for instance,
in your area
or in your possession.
Yeah.
So like for instance, a lot of people have amethyst. It's a very popular stone. Most people think of it as being for protection or love. But amethyst is also used for increasing spiritual awareness, for calming, repelling negative vibrations, for happiness, dream magic. It's for stability, fertility, and also eloquence. So you can see that it's used for like a ton of things. So perhaps you have something in mind and you already have something and you just didn't realize that correspondence is there for it.
Peek behind the curtain of chaos magic for me. I just genuinely and always have loved amethyst, and I use amethyst in magical practice. I have never once looked up its correspondences at all. I have no clue. I know that it's like a common one. No clue at all. I just learned like a whole bunch of shit about amethyst. It's just because I love the color purple. It is essentially involved in like almost everything that I own has some small amount of purple on it. And amethyst is like a pretty purple rock. That's like essentially the end of my thought process there. It's like, I love this rock. It's pretty. Good enough for magic, bro. I use amethyst in fucking literally everything.
Literally everything.
Yeah, yes. I always have little flakes of amethyst in like any of my spell jars. Or like candle spells or anything like that. Yeah, I just always use it.
Yeah, well, and you can do the same thing with herbs, too. So,
totally.
You know, they have tons of correspondences. So for
like
herbs...
rosemary.
Also...
Taking it back.
Yeah. Also, look up the correspondences for the herbs and spices that you already have. So, a lot of herbs you can find in your kitchen. So if you're trying to do... store those? Yeah, so if you're trying to do a particular spell and it's calling for angelica for protection, use basil. Or acorns. They work just as well. Those also mean protection. Yeah. And like a billion other herbs for protection. We actually have a show that's on protection that you can listen to.
An episode.
Like Intro to Protection Magic. Yeah. So we've got correspondences in there that you can reference for that.
A good idea for like herbs, or I would almost go so far as to change the category of herbs to just like plant material.
Yeah.
Is that like, you know, what trees do you have around you? And what with their leaves fall off during the fall? All right, well, sup with that? What are those? Right? Like for us, we obviously have like a bunch of redwoods. They don't. I mean, they drop needles all the time, but it's a different story. They're green forever. But like we've got like oak, and we've got maple, and we've got bay, and we've.
Well, bay does not drop.
I mean, bay doesn't drop leaves neither. No, yeah. Just
but we've got like a bunch of stuff locally, you know. So you can also like grow your own things too if there's something in particular that you want for something. But like I remember being like a young witch in the 90s and looking at like witchcraft.
A young witch.
I was.
My bad.
Yeah, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. At the dawn of civilization.
I remember like looking at these like witchy catalogs. I'm looking at you, Pyramid Collection and Llewellyn, and going like, oh man, all this stuff is so cool, but like I can't afford this. And also, this was the 90s. What am I gonna do? Write a check? I'm like 15.
Yeah. Ain't nobody writing no checks no more. It's the future.
Yeah, that's for sure. I only have to write like a couple a year, and it is an absolute mess every time.
Do you remember writing like those big pretend checks in school so they could teach you how to write checks?
No.
I vividly remember. I think about this regularly. I remember at some point in time in like elementary school, they're like, you're gonna have to learn how to balance a checkbook. So here's a pretend checkbook, and we're going to have like a bunch of pretend transactions happen. I have to learn how to write these like big, dumb, like kids have bad handwriting and low dexterity checks. And the whole time I was like, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to balance a checkbook. I'm never going to write a check. And the balancing a checkbook is just because I'm irresponsible and have somebody who's better at that than me. I refuse to write checks. No. I will hand a person an egregious amount of cash before I write them a check. I hate checks. It's a stupid system.
I did not learn that stuff until I literally worked in banking. Like I knew how to write a check before I worked in banking.
Oh, yeah. But we got taught that stuff at school. They're just like, this is going to be forever.
That's very rare.
Checks are immortal.
That's very rare. Statistically, across the U.S., only 14% of people are taught how to balance a checkbook in school.
What? Oh my god, that shit was forced on me in like 2 different schools in like several different years.
And that was like a study that was done in like 2011. Whoa. So it's less now than it was then.
Whoa. Well, that explains a bunch of problems.
Anyway, I remember looking at these like catalogs for all this like cool witchy stuff when I was younger and just being like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is so cool. Like, where like mandrake root, I should totally get mandrake root. But then I'm like, ooh.
Sounds fancy, bro.
Like, how am I going to pay for that and stuff? So like, instead of using the thing that like all these like very weirdly specific, like at the time Wicca spells, and I'm not calling out Wicca, it's just that was really the only
like
information available in the 90s.
Presented to her,
you know, all these like very specific spells, you had to have like these very specific things, and I was just like, I don't have that. So that's why I started creating correspondences, is because I was like a broke closeted witch.
Yeah. That's exactly stuff. What drove me to the cosmic shores of chaos magic.
Yeah.
Was just like, oh man, this would be dope. Oh, there's like a bunch of steps and all this shit costs a bunch of money. Nah, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to wing it and just do the stuff that I want to do, a la including amethyst and everything. Also, if you're doing herbs, get those like instead of going, like if you're going to the grocery store and you're always buying whatever, majorman, rosemary, basil for like magic or what have you.
Yeah.
Then like, yeah, I said majorman. You heard me. The herb that I don't know what it is. Go to like a plant.
Marjoram.
I'm gonna go with majorman. Marjoram. You can't believe that it's not butter.
No, that's not what that is.
It's the same thing. Yeah. I mean, you can believe it's not butter. It's gross. So don't worry. But go to like your local nursery, whatever the system that you have for your nursery, and just like get that plant in spring. Early when your nursery has it available. Most of the time it's a hardware store of a Borg-like consistency. And they like that'll last all summer, right? You can keep it in a windowsill. You can keep it like generally kitchen windows are like the best well-lit windows in your house. Yeah. So keep it in like your kitchen window, then you have access to it all the time, as well as fresh herbs for your food, which just makes your food taste like way ass better.
Yeah.
Or you could just like put it outside or whatever, and that's great if you're like an apartment witch and you live in like a big city, so you can't have like a proper garden or whatever.
Yeah.
That nonsense is.
And also, if you're a
look
closeted
at city gardens.
Pagan,
we know a bunch of people who live in San Francisco who are like members of a city garden like co-op where everybody just kind of like donates time to the garden and they get vegetables, like produce, as well as access to like herbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as you involve yourself in that community, you'll be able to gain access to like increasingly large amounts of like fresh herbs and fresh vegetables and things that you can use for your practice, whether it's for color or flavor or for like a particular correspondi.
Yeah, you may also have someone that lives near you that you can kind of like co-op garden with. Like when I was younger, there was an older lady who was like quite frail, who really loved having a garden but didn't really have like the ability to tend it, and my family would come over and we would help her tend her garden so that in the winter time we could prune a few branches off of her pine tree to use in lieu of a Christmas tree because we were too broke for a whole Christmas tree. Yeah, so totally, like there's a lot of things that you can do for that. So there's a lot of ways that you can do herbs. But definitely look to your spice rack before you look to the store.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so next up is books. So there's tons of books out there, my people. So, like, obviously you can look at buying books at the thrift store or, you know, like eBay, that sort of thing. But also don't forget about free resources. So you can find lots of occult books at the library, in either an occult section, the religion section, and even the mythology section. You can find a lot of interesting pieces there. Different libraries are organized in slightly different ways, and larger ones will have more categories, whereas smaller ones will have less categories. So, you know, definitely check that out. And if you are concerned about being there in person to check them out, some libraries have apps, so you don't even have to physically go into them. And if you don't mind going in person, some libraries libraries let you order books from nearby branches if they don't have it there, like, actually physically. This dog is just, like, walking on the couch behind us. What are you doing?
What are you doing, honey? Yeah, just lay down.
Are you just, honey,
Did you just make a bunch of bad decisions?
You just made bad decisions, didn't you? You thought there was going to be
You're up there. You're up there now. That's for you.
This is okay.
Welcome to Earth, bro.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you watching YouTube, that was fun. That's only one of our 3 monsters.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can also use free internet archives. So there's archive.org, which we talked about in our UL 103 episode, and that's just archive.org, the internet archives. There's also the esoteric archives, that's esotericarchives.com, and then there's also sacred-texts.com that you can find lots of PDF and HTML versions of magical and devotional type books.
Yeah.
They are totally free. I believe you can donate to them if you want to. You can also find a ton of information on Wikipedia, but that can sometimes be sort of hard to sort through. And we'll have links to those 3 websites in the show notes and the description so that you can access them. So you can get tons of stuff there.
There's also a lot of sites where people have, like, essentially gathered information with various degrees of like, citability, you know? And, there you go. You figured it out.
There we go. She found it.
But, so, like, definitely... I enjoy doing this when preparing for, like, a ritual or a blot. What do you call those?
Sabbat.
Or a Sabbat or anything like that. Is just, like, kind of give book 30 minutes to an hour of internet time in your life to just dive in and see what you can find. I have found several resources that are, like, definitely not, like, A1 fresh resources. But, like, you know what? I like the way this person talks about this thing and, like, their information sort of, like... vibes with everything else that I'm seeing, but it's presented in a faster for me to search to find that thing that I vaguely remember sort of a way.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll use those. There's a lot of practices out there that have individual websites where they're saying, like, oh, like, this is how we practice this particular thing. Like, here's our stuff. You know, you can always use that for, like, information or what have you. And also, you know, if you're listening to us, that should give you a bit of a clue. YouTube and podcasts, it's not just us.
Yeah.
There are a ton of YouTubers and a fair amount of podcasts out there that do, like, and talk about this occult stuff. And we're all finding different stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know, there are some of these YouTubers out there that are practicing, like, similar craft, and they're finding shit that I've never even heard of before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about more along the lines of a book for yourself, like a grimoire or a book of shadows, first of all, we have an episode on that, so definitely listen to that. That's Spellcrafting 102, Book of Shadows. I did not write down any episode numbers for this, so for any of this stuff, so you guys just get to guess. I am a person who is like, it is a new year. It is time for me to buy the notebook that will solve everything, TM.
Notebook solves everything, TM. Yeah, I got many of those, bro.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of, like, handle this. So my first thing is don't buy an expensive one. Because it's going to be really hard for you to want to be in a place to fill it with things, because what if you make a mistake? Gasp. Even though it's so beautiful. Either just start writing in it, do not care, just move along. Or try decorating a less expensive notebook, or leave it plain if you're a closeted witch. You can also buy a moderately expensive one with tons of pages instead of, like, a bunch of tiny ones. You may already have notebooks or sketchbooks around you. The answer here is not don't buy anything, but don't buy the $120 hand-tooled
Italian
book
leather. I mean, like, listen, if you're
with handmade pages with herbs in it.
If you're crushing grimoires all day long,
unless that's your splurge,
like, rock and roll, do it, bro. $100.
If that's your splurge,
seeing these people who do that, it's like scrapbookers. It's an amount of willpower that just does not exist within me. Every time I think, scrapbooking stuff would be great for a grimoire, and or whatever, and I'll like buy a bunch of supplies, and then inevitably I give up within a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, it's not perfectly aligned. But that's why our Book of Shadows pages are done digitally, and even those, half the time I'm like, it turned out all right, and Julie or like my brother-in-law or like my dad or somebody else will be like, this is awesome, bro, and I'm just like, is it though? Because I'm like not that person, man.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. You know what I use often for a grimoire / art book, because I inevitably just sort of blend the two together, is just like a spiral ring binder.
Oh,
I just use like I write on graph paper because I hate lined paper.
You have like a spiral notepad.
I'm pretty deranged about lined paper. I think the lines are too big on all of it. But I use blank pages on a spiral rim notepad if it's small enough. Or if it's a little bit bigger, I'll use a spiral rimmed graph paper. Just because I've been writing on graph paper since I was like in high school. I'm one of those kids. But yeah, I use graph paper for that. You know, and fill those. In fact, I'm more likely to fill and use a graph paper notebook than I am one of the, like even within my site too, and I know I have like 3 or 4 more on the bookshelf over there, leather bound notebooks that I have that are all like 5 pages deep and the rest are blank. Yay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, big plans.
Big plans. Yeah,
big plans.
Yeah, big plans.
Of course, you can also not use a physical book at all, and you can use an app on your phone. And if you are using an app, try to find out if you really enjoy it and if you're going to use it before you pay any like fees associated with the app. Like if it's a one-time purchase, kind of whatever. But a lot of those things are yearly subscriptions now.
Yeah, it's so dreadful.
And those really pile up, and those are easy ways to just burn money that you're not using. It's like that gym membership, kind of thing. So definitely you can use an app on your phone, or like a website. Like you could create a private Instagram or Pinterest account, or something along those lines, and you can have it so that it's only for you.
Create a whole website and just keep it private.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or heck, honestly, if you're gonna do that, you can use like Word documents, Excel documents. I have definitely, like, I write all of my rituals in Word because I can't. My handwriting is like a nightmare. I can read it, but nobody else can. So I don't write. I don't write shit down. In fact, my handwriting's better when I write in runes than it is when I write in like the language, the written language that I write and read.
Yeah.
But so like I type everything. I just have like hundreds and hundreds of Word documents and Excel documents and Photoshop files and all that kind of stuff on my computer, organized in the definitely not the right way to organize things, organizational system that I use. And that's my magical thing, which is why, like, we talked about this in our technomancy episode, where, like, I use the computer as my grimoire more often than not, either the computer or the app on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's just because, like, I'm just not super comfortable with the quality that I write at. Like, my handwriting is atrocious. And, unless I'm using a ruler, I can't draw a straight line to save my fucking life. Like, at all, bro. At all. And I'm, like, crazy about things being at perfectly right angles and, like, circles being in the exact place that I need them to be. And I'm just, like a bit nuts about that stuff. Yeah. So I use completely digital grimoire stuff. I'm, totally technomantic on that side.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I'm a little bit of both. I like my handwriting. I think it's particularly magical looking because it's weird. But I also like using the technology of things.
Yeah.
I always tell my coworkers at my day job, like, I don't want to print anything. I don't want anything paper. I want it all digital. So I very much incorporate that into my practice as well as a lot of the stuff that I write and researches for the podcast. And it's such a huge volume of stuff that it is way easier for me to store on my computer rather than written by hand. And also I'm one of those people that grips a writing instrument like it's going to, like, be yanked out of my hand at any moment.
Yeah.
So that's not fun. Yeah. So next is altar stuff. So first of all, think about things you already have. And incorporate those into your altar space. We have a variety of things on both of our 2 altars that are things that we just, like, already had. So, like, offering plates, we use cups, like tiny cups and plates that we already have. And a lot of
shot glass,
things.
great offering cup, shot glass.
Yeah.
A little bit of beverage.
If you go to beer fests, those little tasting glass that you get from those,
little 2-3 ounce tasting glass,
are
perfect.
like absolutely perfect for that.
Yeah.
So see what you already have. You have a particularly nice bit of cloth. You've got like a broken necklace. Like, what can you sort of upcycle that into?
Yeah.
You can also forage your own things, and you can visit a thrift store. So there's a lot of places that you can get stuff. You can also make a mini altar, or like a sort of a bare bones altar, and grow it over time. Like, our altars are, well, right now it's mostly like Yule decorations.
Yeah, tiny Yule.
But like normally it's just like a bunch of stuff that we've collected over time.
Yeah.
Like, we have pretty intense large altar spaces, and a lot of stuff that goes in them, but it's some stuff that's been collected over like decades. So it takes time to kind of grow that stuff.
Definitely take your time, be patient. And also, if like you find a new thing and it's displacing an old thing, like donate that old thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like send it to a good home, or do whatever with it.
Trade it to someone in your witchy collective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or hang on to it, which is what we either give stuff away, or we hang on to it because we may decide that we want that back up there.
Yeah. Well, we also like redecorate our altar, like pretty much for every blot. So.
Yes, we do. Yeah. As far as offerings, instead of getting fancy offerings, use things that you already have in your home. You know, use the food that you're already eating, or use non-consumables like rocks or shiny objects or shells. Try doing something like community service or art as a devotional thing. And that, especially if it's art, it can decorate your space. But if it's community service, obviously that's not decorating your space. But the intention is still there.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
totally.
know? Yeah. You can also, instead of purchasing statuettes for your altar, you can make your own by sculpting or carving or drawing, or even just like printing out a coloring page online, coloring that up. You can also paint it on a rock.
Yeah.
There goes that painting on a rock.
Yeah.
It's a
Paint
theme.
it on a rock. Paint it on a rock. And if you have you would love like a bunch of art for like a deity or whatever. We started doing, and we talk about this somewhere, but we got like
It's in our Doctor Strange. It's in the pub chat where we talk about the new
Doctor Strange movie. Yeah, Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, we bought like a digital picture frame, like a really cheap one from Amazon. I think we paid like $30 for it.
Oh yeah, it was really cheap.
It was like super cheap one. It doesn't got all the fancy features, which I don't know what fancy features you need. So long as it just cycles through pictures, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And we just like load that up with seasonally thematic pictures and just have that on display.
Yeah.
That's it. So simple.
Yeah, it just sort of moves around.
Yeah.
And also, if you're doing something like that, that's an easy way to sort of disguise things if you're in the closet too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Moving on to spell work. So you can reuse jars for your for your spells, or you can skip the jar and use some paper. Like, we've always got like jam jars.
Yeah.
And we have a ton of mason jars, but that's because we use that for a lot of storage stuff too. But like old spice jars and jam jars, but you can also make little paper envelopes and do stuff like that too. There's a lot of options that you can use there. And I think we talk about some about that in one of our spell crafting episodes. But you can also, there's a lot of other things for spell work too. So if you're a candle spell work kind of person, instead of buying fancy candles, you have a ton of options. Unless, again, fancy candles is your splurge. You can use a basic LED candle, and you can get those LED candles in colors and even rainbow packs.
Yeah.
And this is a larger initial investment just because they're a little bit more expensive than buying just like cheap candles at the store. But that's something that you're never really going to need to get another one for.
Yeah, yeah. And if you get like not the smaller style, but the larger like pillar candle style LEDs, oftentimes the like flame flickering LED part, like leave that alone. But the candle itself is essentially just made out of a simple plastic, so that's all paintable. Don't again, paint over the flickery LED part, because LEDs do generate a very small amount of heat. So you'd rather not risk that. But the body of the candle itself is just a piece of plastic with a tiny ass LED in it.
Yeah.
So that don't get warm at all. And so you can always paint that to
and some
make
of them
it a
have
black
like a
candle or
wax
whatever.
coating too.
Oh, some of them do, to make it like feel more real or whatever.
Yeah. If you want a real candle, you can also use tea lights. They come in a variety of colors and scents and are generally pretty inexpensive. Those are kind of like little one and dones, which is nice. And you also don't really have to worry about color correspondences either. Like, I mean, you can.
You don't, yeah.
It adds extra oomph, but like if you can only afford that like giant 100-pack of tea light candles instead of buying like a bunch of colored ones, do that.
Yeah, rock and roll, man.
Yeah, and also buying in bulk. So buying like a big pack of things is definitely going to say again a larger initial investment, but it's going to save you money.
And seasonality. Let me tell you what, our local Safeway, they have like a corner that sells colored candles. They are outrageously expensive for candles. Don't buy candles there. However, at the end of a holiday, they always have the holiday-themed candles on like 8,000,000% off because nobody bought them. So we buy like black candles for like post-Halloween.
And pink and
or like
purple.
Pink and purple.
Easter.
Or like even the red and green candles for Christmas time are like dirty cheap like a month later. So we just like buy them a month later.
Yeah, you can
Save them till
also
next year.
use birthday candles.
Oh, totally.
And those do come in a variety of colors. Those are also really nice one and dones. They're really great for people who are in the closet because they are so small and so fast. That's definitely a great way to do it too. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who likes using a wand as like a spellwork instrument, you can instead of like purchasing a fancy wand or purchasing a lot of expensive ingredients to make a fancy wand, because we all know that meme, you could use chopsticks. You can also forage a wand out of sticks you find
Fallen
out.
Stick, best
I'm a sucker for a great stick.
Yep.
You can also use your finger, the original wand.
Tricky.
And you can also use a pencil. And if you're trying to go for like color correspondences, use a colored pencil that matches your correspondence for a little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to use for somebody who's in the closet.
Oh, color pencil's a great idea.
Absolutely, because that's totally
there's a
or like a marker, obviously.
There's a pretty popular magical book series where the like main character wizard uses a hockey stick for his like magical staff.
Oh,
he just uses like a hockey stick because he plays hockey.
It makes sense. It's practical.
So it doesn't have to be like a hand hewn elm branch or flipping whatever.
Yeah.
Like just use whatever's clever, man.
Yeah. You can also try incorporating knot magic into your practice. Any string works for knot magic.
It's very simple.
Great.
Just don't do magic. Not magic.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any string works though for knot magic. You don't need to add decorations to it. It can fit in a small space. You can also add intention by using like fabric and writing your intentions on the fabric or adding decorations. And so that's like a bunch of different ways that you can use knot magic, which is a fantastic way to do that. Sigils is also a great thing to incorporate into your practice. There is a tiny spider that has descended from the ceiling.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's roof spider season at our house. That's a thing that you now get to know exists.
Yeah,
here.
That's the third one
You're
today.
welcome.
Yeah,
they're like tiny. They're like wisps, so you only see them like when they catch the light.
Yeah, that means that spring is coming.
Spring is
That's my
coming.
third clue that spring is coming. Early.
Hyperstorm notwithstanding.
Yeah, spring is coming early.
Yeah.
Anyway, sigils. Sigil magic is another great way, low cost, to move into your practice, and can be done either with just like drawing a sigil in the air, or also like on paper or on a particular item.
Particular way of folding a thing, or laying a string in a place, right? Like I've seen people do like get a bit of string and lay it in a particular pattern, like a knotwork or structure or sigil, at the bottom of your drawer for your clothes. Then put your clothes on it. And when somebody's like, "What's going on with this string?" Just be like, "I have like this bit of rope and I put it in there." I don't know.
Or I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Must have come off of
I don't know why I
something.
didn't know rope here or whatever. I was definitely that kid that like drew sigils and symbols all over everything all the time. So that happens. Yeah, I know, honey. Okay, you can continue with oils.
Okay. So, oils is another thing that you see too, particularly like dressing, candles, and components of spells and stuff like that. And rather than buying like pricey oils, make your own by infusing the oils, like cooking oils, particularly that you already have with herbs, or charging it in your crystals that you already have. Don't put crystals and rocks in the oils. That's generally not great for them, and also is messy.
Don't consume anything that had rocks in it. Just don't. I know that the internet is real hot on like fucking rock water or whatever that shit's on about, but that is so inherently dangerous. It's insane, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you gonna break up a glass bottle and put it in your water bottle or something? Get out of here with that.
Yeah,
shit.
some rocks are poisonous.
Yeah, or are just gonna cleave off into tiny shards that are gonna tear up your insides. It's so infuriating. It is like one of my biggest pet peeves on like witch talk and like witchy Instagram and like witchy Reddit and all these places, is these people who are just like set this rock in a water bottle and then drink this water. Don't do it. There's no good excuse. Why are you risking that shit, bro?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and you're not necessarily drinking the oils, but like rocks,
cooking with them or
stones
whatever.
can also disintegrate entirely in water and oils.
Yeah, make water.
So it's best to charge them next to it as opposed to in it. Yeah. So make your own by infusing the oil. I do this a lot, both for like herbalism practices as well as witchy practices. And what I do is ideally I get a bunch of the dried herbs and then I put them into a jar with oil, where the oil just kind of like barely covers the dried herbs or like flowers or whatever, and I let that sit for like 6 weeks, and then I strain out the plant matter, and then that is my infused oil, good to go. Yeah. And if you just like screamed inside at the thought of 6 weeks, then you can do this on the stovetop also by like getting the oil and heating it like on the lowest temperature.
Yeah.
And you want to do it for anywhere between 10 minutes and an hour.
A pot of oil.
Yeah,
Jesus.
don't overheat it. But you don't want the herbs to burn, so you kind of have to keep an eye on it and keeping it on the lowest temperature. Ideally, you want it to be cooking at the lowest temperature for 10 minutes and then to steep in the oil with the heat off until it has cooled, and then you strain it. Yeah. Different things work in slightly different ways. Again, you can also look to herbalism practices with this, like stovetop infusions. So that's definitely a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you're particularly into essential oils, try skipping the pricey blends, which also may have just like mystery stuff or oftentimes just like aroma chemicals. So not actually an essential oil, it's just like scents, like chemical scents. So skip these pricey essential oil blends.
Candle scents.
Yeah, and choose one or two that you just really love the scent of, or are you consider to be fairly multi-purpose. Yeah. But also remember, you need to like the scent. So if you hate the scent of bergamot, do not get bergamot essential oil.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like make sure you're like being safe and studying up and like, whatever, if you're making your oils and you're going to be like applying it to your skin or applying it to like a thing that's going to touch your skin or like consuming it, whether it's an oil or an infusion or a tincture or a concoction of some sort like that. Like make sure you're being safe, do your research, don't, we're not recommending nothing in particular.
Totally.
We're just saying like these are things that like we have done, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I've also, like, made, like, garlic-infused olive oil so that way I can make, like, mad good food.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't use it in cake. That's a thing that's happened. I didn't bake that cake, but it definitely took a bite out of that cake, and that wasn't good cake.
Yeah.
Shit happened.
Yeah. And then the last part of spell work is enchanting. So enchant all of it. Enchant your jewelry, enchant your makeup, enchant your deodorant, enchant your soap, enchant your cooking tools, enchant your clothes.
Yeah.
Enchant it all. Why not? Just enchant it all. And the only thing that you need to enchant things really is the item, because you're just sort of pouring intention into that item. So enchant it.
Yeah, if you're going to use it, just give it the old Gowron eyes. Good to go. Enchanted.
Jeez.
Right? That's pretty much what I do. But again, chaos magic.
And then I have the last category, which is miscellaneous, and that is just like a bunch of stuff that didn't really fit super well into other ones. So you can also cultivate your inner kitchen witch or wizard. I mean, you're already making food to feed yourself, even if you're literally just heating up like a frozen dinner in the microwave. So why not supplement your practice with adding magic to it there?
Yeah, 100%. Almost every time I make like a salad and I'm putting veg on it, that veg is a pentagram, bro. 110% of the time. All right? That stuff, that veg is a pentagram.
Add, like,
bro,
runes and sigils
I worked
to
in a
things.
restaurant making salads at speed, and everything. It's always like 5 of this and 3 of this and 7 of this and 6 because I'm a numerologist. Like I'm always using numerology. I mean, ask Julie today. She had to bake bread for 20 minutes, and she sets the timer for 20 minutes, and I was just like, "Fuck's wrong with you? Set him with 20, 21 or 19, bruv. 20 minutes. I don't like even numbers. Like again, crazy." So like, you know, it's one of those things. You can essentially infuse 100% of what you do in a kitchen into like magical ass work.
Yeah.
Right? And it's gonna give you a little bit more focus in what you're doing in the kitchen, which is nice because it means that you're more present for the kitchen work. As well as like now you're just eating magical tacos or magical pancakes or a magical salad or whatever. You know, and improving your skills just that little bit more.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Why not?
Yeah. You can also try chaos magic, which is mostly pure intention and pulling from like the greater multiverse of options to get the outcome that you want.
It's just staring reality in the eyes, Gowron style, and just letting it happen.
Well, and not letting it happen, but telling it what you want to happen.
No, I mean letting reality happen. You're telling it what to do.
Oh,
you're just letting it do.
Yeah.
You're just letting it do what the eyes told it to do.
Yeah, and again, we are planning a show
time,
on chaos magic coming out later this year. That one requires quite a bit of some like odd reading material for us to pick up. Even though we're pretty well versed ourselves in it, we want to bring you guys a really great show.
Yeah.
So look for that later this year.
Just because I know what I do doesn't mean that I know.
And I know what I do.
Doesn't mean that I know what regular people are doing.
Yeah.
So,
another thing that you can do is meditate.
Yeah.
I know, we talk about it all the time.
Free AF, bro. Let me tell you about this thing that I recently found on meditation. First of all, I love frequencies on the YouTube. I do not know what this shit is called.
Oh yeah, we've gotten really into like frequencies and binaural beats.
I call it frequencies because so binaural beats is when each channel, so the left channel and right channel of your headphones are at a slightly different frequency. So there's like, let's say a 4 hertz difference. And then that's what's making it like binaural. It's 2 ears, binaural audio. But then you can also get like frequencies. We're like 432 hertz, and that means whatever the hell that means. Or like 597 hertz, and that means whatever the fuck that means. Whatever that is. All right. Again, I'm leaning real heavy on the chaos magic on this because there's a bunch of shit out there and everybody's saying a different thing.
I mostly pick them because I like the picture.
The graphic. Yeah. I pick them for the graphic. I pick them by the graphic.
Also, I found that there is because I usually listen to them when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I found that there is a frequency range and like type of music over it that I don't sleep as well with, so I tend to stay away from those.
Yeah, totally, yeah. So there's so you can find like binaural beats if you're using headphones when you're meditating, or like frequencies, which like I just like put frequencies on my cell phone on like one volume bar, and then I just like put it underneath my pillow.
Yeah. And
it's just emitting like a tiny amount of sound. It's like barely audible, right? But it's like just enough that you're like, like a little bit of like extra juice while you're sleeping sort of magic.
Yeah.
We also recently found Sith meditation, like 2-hour chant music, and I cannot tell you how here I am for the Sith meditation music. But either way, meditation is free and YouTube is free, and you can find like a bunch of dope music for meditating.
Yeah. As
which
well
just
as
like
guided
hypes your
meditations
as well
too.
as like guided meditations. Oh yeah, all over. Like meditation is the freest access to magic like available.
Yeah.
Bro. You know what I'm saying?
And we have a whole episode on meditation too.
Yeah.
So if you are a person that's like, I can never meditate, listen to that episode.
Yeah.
And then decide, basically.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who wants to meditate more, also listen to that episode. It's a good episode. I did a lot of fun
and if
research.
your meditation is different than like whatever the heck, like if the thing that you're listening to is like clear your mind of all thoughts, and you're just like, I don't know how to do that. All I'm doing is thinking. Every time you say that, I'm getting more thinking about it. Blah. Then just like don't worry about that shit. Just ignore that part of it. Right?
Yeah.
And just meditate. Meditation is not like this, like, oh, I meditate and access the same place that you meditate and access. That's not meditation,
we both
bro.
meditate in very different ways.
Very different ways.
And just like how we do our own personal magical practices in very different ways, we meditate in different ways.
Oh, yeah.
And the episode that we did for it, I
think we talked
looked
about
up. We talk about our own personal meditation practices, but I also describe a variety of different ways that you can meditate because it's not just sit cross-legged on the floor, fingers say om. There's so many more ways that you can meditate.
Oh, totally.
So work on that meditation practice. You can also make a mini simmer pot. Simmer pots are like wildly hot right now. And when I'm making a simmer pot, guess what I'm doing? I'm making soup. First of all, I have zero or mulled wine. I have zero problems with simmer pots. I'm just like, why am I going to make something that smells delicious if I can't eat it?
Reasonable, I guess.
Which, I mean, for our like 8 longtime listeners, they're not surprised by this.
Right?
But you can make yourself a mini simmer pot by putting a mug near your heater or your fireplace. Near, not on. Yeah. There's a difference.
Also, fire safe mugs. Don't use something dumb. Don't be dumb. Man.
Yeah. And that may not give you as much scent as a standard simmer pot on the stove would, but guess what? Electricity and natural gas cost a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah.
And if you're already running your heater or your fireplace to keep your abode warm, then you might as well add to it. Of course, you could also get like candle melts or, any of that stuff. But if you're already making simmer pots, this is a way to cut down on that cost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Also, you can visit a local ethnic market for supplies. Near us, we love the Asia Mart. And just to clarify, guys, the name of this place is actually called the Asia Mart.
Yeah, it's like the name of the store, so that's why we call it that. By the by,
yeah, we call it the Asia Mart because it is the Asia Mart.
Yeah.
And you can find lots of supplies at ethnic markets, whether that's an Asia Mart or whatever it is that's nearby. We also have a lot of local Mexican markets. There's a lot of tiny bodegas around here.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot, and you can find pretty much the same things all the way across. So not only can you find like relatively inexpensive herbs and fruit and foods and spices there, but you can also find incense, candles. Every single time we go to the Asia Mart, we pick up a pack of candles and a pack of incense.
Yeah, they're so cheap.
Much.
They're so nice, right? So like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, like definitely local. Like whatever your local ethnic market is going to have like bonus supplies. Also, it may or may not be worth checking out whatever your local like hipster market is. The hipsters have a strange with regard to what is supplied in these markets.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you like Trader Joe's or like an Oliver's or whatever.
Yeah.
Those places sometimes have like good deals on like kind of Craytown stuff. I have bought like potted herbs from Trader Joe's that are like half the price of going to my local like orange.
We have one of those like living mint plants from Trader Joe's that we got like 4 years ago.
Oh, it's still fine.
And we planted it in the yard and it's still growing.
Yeah.
But the ethnic markets, like incense, candles, herbs, you can also get small dishes and statues for your altar supplies. There's a lot of stuff that you can get from those.
Stuff. Yeah.
And a variety of other things too. Like you may find legitimately devotional items that you are using in your own practice at a place like that, particularly if you are interested in forms of Eastern magic, or if you have been or if you happen to live near a Eastern European type of a market or a Russian market or things like that.
Blank votive candles.
Yeah,
that's a common one. So then you can make that votive candle in whatever you want it to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you are a Tarot and Oracle deck person,
Tarot?
Tarot or Oracle deck kind of person.
Yeah, Tarot.
I tried. First of all, you can make your own. I actually made a tarot deck, just the major arcana, because I didn't want to continue to work on this project for like forever, out of a comic book that I particularly liked, finding panels and sections in it that I thought met that particular thing. So that's one way that you can make it, especially if you feel like you're not an artsy person. You can collage. There's a lot of things. You may be able to find them at a thrift store. There's tons of tarot and oracle decks on Etsy. Of course, Kickstarter.
Oh man, let me tell you, balling on a budget, Kickstarter is not the place to start looking at tarot decks.
No, stay away. Stay away.
A concerning pile of tarot decks from Kickstarter.
That
are rather expensive. That I'm not proud of. Spending that much money, but boy, do I love every single one of them, and I use them all as I rotate through the
I don't necessarily use them all. Some of them
the only one I don't use is the Star Trek one, and that's because every decision that was made in the production of that deck is wrong in so many ways. One day I will make a video about the wrongness of this Star Trek The Next Generation tarot deck, but I had to own it as both a collector of tarot and a monstrous fan of Star Trek.
Yeah.
I had to buy it, and I opened it up and was immediately saddened.
I have a tarot deck that came from the Spirit store, and that one is also, it does not make sense. But I have a lot of tarot decks that seemed like a good idea at the time that I kickstarted it, and I got it, and I was just like, I am not vibing with this deck. There was nothing wrong with it. The art is still fantastic. It's just not my vibe. So I
definitely use all of mine. I just rotate through them. I'm just like, what am I gonna? Maybe I'm feeling this one. Maybe I'm feeling this one. Sometimes I draw like one card.
Not into.
Sometimes I draw like 14 cards. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you a little secret, I draw a bunch of tarot cards and they sit out on my altar space for like 3 or 4 days, and then I just put them away. I never really read them, man.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't have the time for this shit. I'm not going to do it. And then they just go away.
Well, and also if you are looking, if you are lucky enough to be a part of a witchy collective, ask them, but you can also ask your witchy friends. They may have decks that they either just don't vibe with or that they feel that they've outgrown.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with getting a secondhand tarot deck, people.
If you're doing runes, which I know is like not the same, but like adjacent, you can make your own. I know that there is some structure that you can only be gifted some.
There's
of
a similar
this shit.
thing with
and
tarot,
like if that's your practice, that's fine, no hate. But me personally, that makes no sense. That is purely illogical. So yeah, just go buy it, go make it. I have made runes, I have bought runes, I have bought rune cards, so essentially runes on tarot cards. I've done all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, whatever, bro.
However, we do recommend that you do not get decks or runes or divination items from, like, Wish or AliExpress.
We're not picking on them specifically, but it's that lower grade.
Well, it's not just that it's a lower grade thing.
Paints are toxic.
Yeah, and it's not even just that.
Stuff.
There's a lot of like commercially popular decks that companies take the art from the artists without permission.
They're just whole stolen,
and they're
bro.
just completely stealing it, maybe not even changing it, and making it their own. I sort of accidentally bought a deck like that, and I still have the deck, but the deck is weird, and it doesn't work right, and it's difficult to understand what it's trying to tell me. So I own a deck like that, and I just like it exists. It's like my old broken deck. So I do not buy them from there, because you're getting something that is most likely you're getting something that may be stolen, is most likely not going to be the experience you want it to be.
Yeah, well, it's recommended don't buy. Like, there's a chance that you're going to have this issue. What I would say in general is that if you find a tarot deck, or frankly, this isn't even about tarot. Like, if you're finding anything that's that's got art on it, and it's at like a dumb discount, maybe do a little reverse image search on Google. Make sure that you're not buying it from somebody who stole the art. Like, art theft is
Huge and rampant.
It's huge and rampant. I know, like, right now the hot topic is, like, AI art theft and shit, but, like, robots learned it from us, guys. If we're gonna pretend that regular art isn't stolen literally all of the flippin' time, then, like, we can't have this conversation in other places. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, to the extent that regularly I see people, like, artists that I follow online who are like, hey, guess what? Like, there's this Instagram account that's sharing a bunch of art. That's just all my art. Go report them or whatever. Yeah. Like, that shit happens all the time. And it's not even, like, big artists. You can be, like, a small artist and, like, just have, like, a specific type of art. And if some asshole finds it and likes it, he's going to steal it and try to make a buck off it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So just, like, be cautious about that. Yeah. When you're looking at, like, oh, normally a tarot deck's $60 and this deck's $20. Like, do a reverse image search. See what you're seeing, because sometimes you're going to find it, like, from the original artist, and that's just, like, less bad juju. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. So, not like spiritual juju, just general juju. Yeah, just, like, morals. Yeah. Overall, so that's the end of our list of suggestions. Overall, we invite you to challenge yourself to use things that you already have on hand, or things that really, like, are something that you want as your splurge, or something that are inexpensive to locate. So we invite you to go with a more waste-free lifestyle with your witchy practices. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we got some spells. And the first spell is a savings jar spell. So what better way to save money than by literally putting saving it in a money? Jar. Yeah. So for this spell, you'll need a change jar or a bowl or whatever receptacle you're going to put that into. Change or, like, loose bills. I actually recommend both. A little bit of loose bills, a little bit of change. Honestly, it's whatever you've got, whatever you can afford. This is I use a nice box that I got with a tarot deck. That, you know, it's just like a nice box because I had it, right? We have a plastic resin cup, like, that you use to mix resin in, that we've been putting change in, that we lost and found and lost and just recently found again, and it's, like, mostly full of quarters. Yeah. So, like, that happens. Yeah. You know? So first off, clear your mind and then focus on money coming your way. Imagine yourself finding money in the street, getting a bonus at work, or, like, a raise at work, maybe a better job, getting more sales coming into your, like, side gig, finding great deals on things you want or need to buy, because spending less money also kind of makes you money. It definitely does. But avoid thinking about things like winning the lotto or coming into an unexpected sum of money, because these may manifest in a way that you don't want. Such as, you're manifesting winning the lotto, but you won $2. Yeah. Or you're manifesting coming into money, but a relative dies and leaves you an inheritance. Or you develop a gambling problem. Be specific. Yeah, be specific and be realistic with this kind of stuff. And as you visualize abundance coming your way, put the money into the jar piece by piece. This is especially satisfying if you're using coins because of the plunk. Sure. The cha-ching. Yeah. And once you're done, put the jar in a place where you can easily put change into it and loose bills into it as part of a daily routine. You may be, like us, we don't use cash very often. Ooh, it's the future. But when we do have change, and we will put our change into the jar. So it doesn't go as fast. Immediately, I hate change in my pocket. It makes noise. Oh yeah, it's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst. I don't like having change in my purse either, but I have, like, some change in there, and I just, like, it's kind of like a holdover from a time when like, in general people use more cash. When, like, a quarter had value? Yeah, when a quarter had value. Yeah. So each time you put something into the jar, visualize that money growing and calling more money to it. And when you pull money from the jar, because that's totally okay, thank the jar for providing and visualize it refilling. And also, if you are, like, a very much cashless person, like, you know,
maybe when you go to the store, get $5 cash back if you can afford it. Again, put that into the jar. Like, it may not be this money was left over from my daily purchases, and it may be like I had a reason to go and get cash back, so here is a portion of that. It's however you want to structure it.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a protection sigil for you. So for this one, you'll need literally any paper you have around the house. Back of a receipt, go for it. Full page of printer paper, absolutely fine.
Splurge, use a whole piece of cardstock. Right?
You get origami paper if you want. Doesn't matter. And a writing instrument. Again, whatever you want here. That's the beauty of sigil magic, is it's whatever it is that you want. So it's as fancy or as simple as you want it to be. So in the center of this paper, write what it is that you want to protect. I want to protect myself. I want to protect my dogs. I want to protect my car. Whatever. Whatever it is you want to protect. Whatever it is, as many things. It doesn't have to be just one thing. Whatever it is you want to protect, you write that in the center of the paper. And then when you are done, draw a box around what you just wrote that you want protected. And now draw a box around that box. And then repeat this until you get the edge of the paper. So you'll have like words in the center and then a series of concentric boxes reaching out to the edge of the paper.
Yeah, you want to make that look real fancy, you make that a box, and then you turn that box... The next box you draw it at
you draw it at like an angle.
Like
that's
45
fine.
degrees, so that way it's like a diamond, and then the next one is like a regular box and whatnot. Looks like nice and floretti looking.
Yeah, or honestly, circles. It really does not matter.
Yeah, circles,
You're just drawing a line around
triangles.
it.
Yeah, you just gotta. It's the point of working it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And each time you draw a square, imagine that there is another layer of protection around the things that you want to protect.
Like an onion. We learned about those from a donkey.
I was thinking like a gobstopper, but yes, also like an onion.
I mean, a gobstopper is just like a shitty onion.
I don't know that I'm okay with that comparison,
but
I also love onions, so I don't know that
I can confidently say I
okay.
love onions more than gobstoppers. So
that's fair,
bam,
dude.
Catch me
That's
outside.
fair. Yeah.
So I actually can't stand gobstoppers. Like, I remember having those as a kid and just being like, "This is like a fucking lot of work, bro."
Well,
can I just get?
like,
I'm a bit of honey kid, so
I like gobstoppers, but I get to a point and I'm like, time to start chewing this. I'm not getting done with this fast enough.
Yeah.
Because what are you gonna do? Take that candy out? What are you
put
gonna put it in?
Yeah, you put it in a
But
Ziploc
bag? That's gross.
Yeah, it is.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, you rinse it before you put it in the bag, and then you put it in the bag.
It's still sticky.
And then you rinse
and
it
it's
after you
still
take
wet.
it out of the bag.
That's still gross. I don't. No thanks.
I'm not a gobstopper person. There's a reason why I don't like gobstoppers.
Anyway, draw the squares and imagine there's layers
draw
of protection around
protection.
it. Yeah, draw an onion of protection. And then fold the paper by bringing the edges into the center of the paper and creasing. And this is like kind of whatever it is that you want. But imagine you have like a physical thing on the inside and you want to fold this up in a way so that it doesn't fall out. You don't have to overthink the way that you're folding this. Just keep folding it into the center however you want.
I'm definitely overthinking the way that I fold this.
Yeah,
I'm one of those people.
Whatever it is that you think works the best for folding this, just do that.
Crumple.
I guess you could crumple it too. Yeah. But continue to fold the paper until, in the same way where you're bringing it to the center and creasing, until you can't fold it anymore. You may also want to, tie something around it if you want to keep it shut, or put tape, whatever you want here. And then store this in a safe place to keep the thing that you want protected.
Yep.
And you now have done sigil magic.
Yeah, protection sigil.
Yeah.
Definitely. You can also, speaking of protection sigils or just any sigil magic on a budget, I do this literally everywhere, all over the house. You know how like when a Sharpie starts to go low and you got to be like, ooh, I got to test this Sharpie? I will just find like a convenient and not in the way space and just draw a sigil on the wall to test the Sharpie.
All the time.
All the time, dude. Our walls are like covered in sigils and like little itty bitty things. I'm not making like a big, like a big red strings attached. Let me tell you about this conspiracy amount of sigils. That's not what's happening here.
Yeah.
I'm not like that crazy, probably. But kind of probably. But I definitely our junk drawer is right next to the door frame to get into the kitchen, like the door into the kitchen. So I just draw sigils on that door frame.
Yeah.
to get into our kitchen all the time. There's sigils on the post outside, like the front post to get into our house. I did a bunch of sigils on there. I will regularly, like, if you have to, like, fold some nonsense and there's, like, a extra scrap of paper, I will, like, do a sigil on that scrap of paper and then just keep it in my wallet until it, like, literally wears the sigil away.
Yeah. I will often be doing something around the house, and I'm like, is this a sigil?
Is this a new one, or has this been here for a while?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great way to do it. And we do have an episode coming on sigil magic later, although we're not quite sure when that one's going to come out.
Yeah, we're still trying to work out the year schedule.
That one's also kind of difficult because we're really talking about something that's visual in many aspects. So, we're working on that.
I'm just going to describe it to you in, like, binary. It's like 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, my dude. I do know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just thinking that is both hilarious and evil.
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Technically, we could describe it to you as a ratio, but that's its own thing.
No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
No.
Look into this. Any, like, book or saying or symbol or anything like that can be converted into a ratio of, like, potential answers and then just expressed as a fraction. Yeah. It's like advanced mathematical.
No, I don't. No, not the math
like techno magic and math magic. I love math magic, so we're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to you guys.
We will eventually.
We're just going to hold a picture up, and then we're just going to hope that you can hear the picture.
Yeah. Well, if you have enough caffeine, you can, like, smell sounds, so why not?
Yeah, why not hear pictures?
Yeah. So for correspondences, we have something a little different for you this time around. We have color correspondences because color magic is an easy and low-cost way to add oomph to your magic.
Because crayons are cheap AF.
Yeah,
bro.
And most people have them. And also, we are planning a full episode on color magic. So this is not going to be like in lieu of that. That's just we got a lot of plans for a lot of episodes, and there's only so much time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work a full-time job, and I run a business, so we are busy.
Yeah.
But less busy than we were last year. So for now, it's getting questionable. I packed a bunch of orders yesterday. But so we should be back at it standard style.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan, Jan.
That's the plan. So for color magic, I've got a bunch of colors and some correspondences for them. We will have Book of Shadows pages for this episode, which will have the full list of correspondences for these colors. This is just a short thing, just because I'm not going to read. There's only so much list I can read, and we're running out of list.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, we're definitely not running out of list. The list is forever.
That's true.
But we're definitely running out of our willingness to continue to sit in the brightest our house ever is, which is only while we're shooting YouTube videos. I generally get a migraine after these, like, almost every time. So
it
is bright in here.
It's a lot of work to do these.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get started. So correspondences for black are grounding, protection, and for divination. Blue is communication, focus, spirituality, and water magic. Brown, stability, concentration, grounding magic, and earth magic. Gray or silver, just because sometimes silver stuff doesn't turn out as nice as you want. Yeah. Intuition, dreams, and moon magic.
I mean, silver's just shiny gray. So.
It is, yeah, it's just shiny gray. Green is abundance, luck, and growth. Orange, creativity, success, and action. Pink, love, healing, and self-improvement. Purple, power, knowledge, intuition, and spirit magic. Red, passion, fertility, and fire magic. White is for cleansing, healing, happiness, and air magic. And yellow or gold is confidence, inspiration, and solar magic.
That's some colors and some correspondi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next up, or upcoming next, we have our next episode to come out is a pub chat. And we've changed the formatting of our pub chats this year. So instead of it being the structure that we were doing, which was question, story, magic, and media, we're just kind of making the pub chats a little bit more off the cuff, lackadaisical. Obviously, if you still have a question, we will talk about your question in a pub chat. That's still
or in
the
a deep
point.
dive.
Or in a deep dive. Yeah, if you have a whole question, like a question that's going to require more, and that's just one of those when we're talking about it, when we get a question, we're like, ooh, okay, we got too much. If we bring it up oh, we just got this question and we've been talking for 20 minutes, then we know that we can't get this done in a pub chat. So we'll turn it into a whole episode. But so the pub chats are going to be a bit more chill, off the cuff, hangout style. We're not ready to start doing those live, but that is a thing that is planning on happening this year at some point. And then after that, we have episode 50.
The big 5-0.
The big 5-0. We're officially able to retire. You can't retire at 50.
No, I think 50 is over the hill.
Is 50 over the hill? Is that what they say?
Although I've also seen over the hill stuff at 30 and 40. Thing that I'm not particularly happy about.
If our podcast was named Richard, at 50 we could call it Dick.
Okay.
Yeah, did you know that that's the cutoff there?
No.
Yeah. I learned that when my Uncle Richard turned 50, so...
I think that he just made that up.
No, that was other people saying that.
That's weird. I've literally never heard of that.
Yeah, they're like, you're 50, you're old now, so I guess we can start calling you Dick. And he's just like, my name's Richard. Please don't do that, thank you.
See, I'm not, I don't agree with that.
But that's the rule. If your name is Richard or you know a Richard, where is the age cutoff for Dick? Or does that even make sense? Because my argument has always been, how is Dick a nickname for Richard that's not the same thing?
Because Ricky, Dicky, they rhyme. There's a thing about that. Old-timey names that don't really make sense as nicknames are because they happen to rhyme, and people would rhyme things.
Oh my god. My Uncle Richard would lose his mind if somebody called him Ricky.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, okay,
he would go insane if I was just hey, Uncle Ricky.
I work with a guy who
Not
is a Billy, and he's about the same age as I am.
Full name Billiard?
No. His full name, his first name is officially William, but he's not a William, and he's not a Will, and he's definitely not a Bill.
Or a Willie.
So he's a Billy. Absolutely, he's a Billy. I don't.
Because it's short for William.
No. That's hilarious, but no.
I know, you're welcome. You're welcome for that.
No, I don't think that names matter like that for ages.
It totally doesn't.
Absolutely not.
I don't believe that it does, but I do believe that every single culture, and even the micro-cultures within culture, have silly-ass traditions about nicknames. I think that anytime somebody's like, oh, my name's Tom Tom, right? The answer is obviously, full name Thomas, if your short name is Tom. Yeah. But I'm just Tomward, Tomathan, right? Tomium, William, Tomium. I always want people to have silly names. I love silly names.
We make up long, silly names for people all the time.
Yeah,
but
it's the best.
Yeah, nicknames. It's a lot of weird old nicknames are because they just rhymed. So that's why Bob and Robert that's why Bob is a nickname for Robert.
Yeah. I think the term for 50 is quincentennial. Because I know sesquicentennial is 150. And bicentennial is 250.
Yes.
Right? So squintennial, if you drop the precursor for that, squintennial should just be 50.
I have no arguments against that, but I feel like it's wrong.
I feel like it's wrong also, but I know what sesquicentennial is, and I know what bicentennial is. So just because I've dealt with 150th and 250th anniversaries, and obviously 100th anniversaries, centennials and shit like that. But so
I think they usually call them by whatever the stone is, marriage rules.
Yeah, because is it America approaching its tricentennial or its bicentennial? I
cannot keep a straight face with you saying that word.
Yeah? Bicentennial?
It's the squint in it that I can't handle.
If I'm saying this wrong, somebody correct me, but I swear to God, a 250-year anniversary is a bicentennial, and 150 is sesquicentennial, right? Therefore, logically, squintennial means 50.
I feel like I'm just going to go with, marriage rules. What is 50? Silver? It's our silver
Is
show.
Is it silver?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm guessing.
Honestly, every single anniversary, I have to look up what the stupid anniversary thing is, because it seems insane. The modern versus ancient is what feels to me like a madman with a dartboard and a bunch of words. So, like, they're just like, oh, what is it, your 12th year anniversary? Well, you got to get them, like, half a leaf, which is the old thing, and the new thing is, like, a Volvo or some shit.
Oh,
it's just
gold.
all over.
50 is gold.
Well, what the hell's silver?
I don't know.
25?
Probably.
Oh, well, look at that.
I would have to look that
the
up.
next full episode is our gold episode. Go!
Which,
and
this has nothing to do with gold.
Oh yeah, we're not doing anything about gold. We are talking about Pontus because somebody wrote us and asked us to talk about Pontus. So we're going to do a bunch of research. This is the primordial Greek sea god.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. I know, like, only the simplest surface level shit about this. So I am very excited to learn more about Pontus.
I am stoked.
Yeah, I'm very jazzed about
also don't
this.
know a whole lot. Like, I know some, but not a whole lot. But I'm very stoked. I've got some great places that I think this is going to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is how you get an episode. You just say, hey, can you just
hit us up and be like, hey, can we talk about this? And then yes, is generally.
And for those of you that have asked for us to talk about a particular thing and we have not talked about it yet,
it's on the list.
It's on the list.
Yeah, it's on the
we
list.
try to balance the shows so that there's a good mixture of things.
So it's not just like deep dive, deep dive, deep dive, deep dive. We also have like a bunch of other stuff we have to get over. So yeah.
So just be patient.
In the
but anyway,
works.
next episode, Pontus.
Yeah, next episode,
dive.
Pontus for the deep dive, and then obviously before that we're going to have our pub chat, which is coming up next. Speaking of asking questions and all that kind of stuff, and Book of Shadows pages, which are available on our Patreon, we would like to thank our patrons, Alan, Miranda, Helena, Alexa. That was a pretty smooth transition. So, I'm pointing it out because I'm pretty proud about that.
It's less smooth now that you've mentioned it.
I don't care. Rough it up now. It already happened, bro. Yeah. Yeah, the smooth already happened. The slide was smooth. The pool can be gross. It's not my problem. I'm at the top of the slide. I'm just pushing kids down the slide or whatever those people do at, like, water parks.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan, so.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you,
patrons. I'm trying to go in a fucking tube full of water, bro.
For helping us do what we do and better every time. And staying
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And just so y'all know, we're doing something a little new for our patrons this year. We're doing videos associated with the Sabbats that are available on our Patreon. So the
so we'll
first
have
one,
special Sabbat
Yule
videos.
is up, and we're going to be doing an Imbolc one too.
Yeah. You get to join us for a little bit of ritual and see how we've decorated the house because, again, every blot we change the decorations for the house. And so like you kind of get to tag along with that. And even though we haven't talked about it specifically, we will have more Magic and Media videos coming out, but those are now like longer, deeper dives with a bit more like a little bit more like oomph in the way that we talk about them, just because it feels like every time we were doing them in the pub chats, it was like dragging the pub chat out, and then we would literally finish recording and then just continue the conversation because we still had more shit to talk about. So we're working on that. Yeah.
And we do have Magic and Anime coming too. And we are planning on being at Fanime this year to host hopefully one of those panels.
Yep.
We say hopefully
to host another panel
because we have not gotten that information yet and we'd love to go back.
Oh my god, yeah. If you know somebody who works at Fanime, give us an email, my guys. We would like to host a panel again, and right now there are no signups yet, and it's way later than before. And very stressful. Having to be the person to fill out what this is, as well as like choose what animes we're going to watch and like get on that, because we don't want to like get them done too early and then forget. But so we'll be doing that, which will be like a live panel at Fanime, which we'll record like I did last year, and we'll put that up. As well as probably some more like live stuff and some more like adventure stuff and stuff like that. So if you want to kind of like keep up on the like expanding magical and like creative efforts of ours, we obviously have our social media, which will all be like linked below and whatever. And we have our YouTube channel. If you're like listening to this on the podcast network, the YouTube channel is where we put a bunch of that like bonus and extra stuff up. We have our Patreon, which will have the bonus blot stuff, like join us for ritual and decorations for the blot, as well as the Book of Shadows pages, which we're trucking through. And then in addition to that, we also have an Etsy shop where we do, which is like the business that I run, which is like freeing me up to do more of this stuff with all of y'all. So you can check that out. All of that stuff's going to be like linked below, as well as it's linked on nerdjive.com under links. So that'll all be available there for you to check out. And please reach out to us if you have like questions or comments, or if we've done a thing that you think is insane, comment below. We might ignore it, like if you're being a butt, but other than that, we generally like engaging. So honestly, I'm gonna engage if you're being a butt anyway. Like, yeah, I'll feed the trolls. I don't care. What are you gonna?
Also, you know what? If you're being a butt, we're gonna use some chaos magic and harness your buttness.
Yeah.
And turn that into more success for us.
Yeah.
So by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, be a butt. Feed the algorithm, my guy. All comments are good comments.
Yeah.
But either way, I've been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. And we will catch you guys next time. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah. And don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.